Hello and welcome to another Knowledge Quest for Video. My name is Chris Tankersley and I'm here with Michael Vernick. This month we wanted to go over improving experiences with quality of service events. For the two of us here today, my name is Chris Tankersley. I am a developer advocate with Vonage, primarily working on integrations and video. So I'll be going over kind of the technical portion of our talk today, and then I will hand it over to Michael to get us started off.
Yeah, hi everyone. I am Michael Vernick. I'm a customer-facing solutions architect at Vonage. I've been in the video business for over 20 years. And today we're going to be talking about quality of service and metrics. So just looking at our agenda, talk a little about what we mean by QoS in this environment, issues that end users have with quality of service. Then Chris is going to take over and get a little technical into the technical details about how to retrieve quality of service metrics, how to handle them. He'll show a quick demo on post-call troubleshooting, and then we'll get into a Q&A at the end. So to prepare, if you want to let us know what kind of developer you are or your expertise and anything specific you want to hear, you can put that in the chat. If there's any questions, in addition, there's both a chat and a Q&A. So if there's any specific questions that you have, feel free to put them in the Q&A session. We do understand that everybody's application is unique. We're just doing a general overview, but any questions you have can be very specific to your setup or application. So just to start off, what we mean by QoS. QoS stands for quality of service. In this domain, the Vonage Video APIs have SDKs, and those SDKs provide quality of service metrics about real-time audio and video performance that enable developers who are building applications to monitor those performance metrics, to get events about certain quality of service events, and then respond to them. And we're going to talk about how to respond to them. And when we say metrics, things we're talking about are jitter, packet loss, network bandwidth, MOS, which is mean opinion score, which is a subjective kind of score on video resolution. So what we're going to talk about is, let's start by looking at users. Users, when they're in a video conference or if they're streaming Netflix or a sporting event, if the quality is not up to their expectations, they blame the service. They have no idea what could be going on in the system, but if there's pixelation or bad audio, customers, first thing they do is they blame the service. And the other thing is, when they do blame the service and they go in and create support tickets, they usually can't articulate what their quality issues are. They say, oh, the quality was bad. So customers have a problem of actually explaining what's going on. So we find that when users are shown quality issues, for example, if your network is down, is not performing up to its full capability, we can show that there's network issues to users, so they know what's happening if quality of service is not great. What that can do is, first of all, it deflects the blame, so the user knows that the problem, could be on their Wi-Fi, it could be within their ISP, but at least it deflects blame from the network product. It can build trust with users because they're actually seeing information about the quality when it's degrading. When users know that it's kind of on their end, for example, their CPU performance, suddenly spikes up because they have another browser window open and something's really affecting video. They understand what's happening and they don't have to make support tickets. And the last thing, which is really interesting, is that some studies have shown that when users are seeing the quality of service of their video call or their streaming service, it actually improves their perceived quality. So showing them may not give them too much information, but it actually makes them think the quality is better just by showing them some basic statistics or information about the quality of service. So now, so that's kind of the introduction. We're going to be talking about QoS metrics. I'm going to hand it off to Chris now, who's going to talk about, get a little technical, and talk about how a developer actually gets access to these statistics and metrics, how we can handle them, and then Chris will finally go into the post-call troubleshooting.
Sure, thanks. Like Michael said, all of our SDKs have the ability to actually get real-time stats. And when we're talking about like quality of service, and especially troubleshooting, the more that we can do during the actual event, the better. So that way the customer doesn't have to rely on things after the fact. But we'll go over a little bit of the after effects as well. But really, the more we can do to be proactive and let a customer know, the better. So we introduce a lot of like real-time stats that you can get. These are both on the publisher and the subscriber objects. So if you go through our build an application with our video API, instead of working directly with like the media tracks, you generally have a publisher and then a series of subscribers that person is subscribed to. So in this case, if we were talking about topology, Michael and I and my screen share are different publishers. The rest of you are all subscribers to our streams. But for example, I'm not a subscriber to anybody in the audience because they're not publishing. But we can get some real basic information just based on these individual connections. One is the get stats, which is part of our SDK. This will give us some high-level overview of the publisher and subscriber. And then you can actually drop all the way to the RTC stats if that's something you want to consume. But at the very high level, we can give you things that are very indicative, especially given a trend of whether or not problems are starting to happen or you're having issues. So our get stats object will return things like the audio video packets that are sent and received. So if you notice this like stop for some reason, there may be an issue. How many packets are being lost, which hopefully if we're attempting to send and it's not going anywhere, those are all being captured as packets lost. But also bytes sent and received. So if you notice that this is not going up very high or not going up very quickly, because video is a very bandwidth intensive operation, you can get these things and then kind of keep track of them over time. We return the timestamp at which you got these stats so that you can collect these over time. And the other important thing that we also give is the video frame rate. This will fluctuate as bandwidth and the browser is trying to handle what's going on. So frame rate is another indication of exactly how well the session is going. Because if you notice it fluctuating a lot or trending down or trending up, either a problem is occurring if it's trending down, or you can compensate and know that things are getting better and make those alerts. But these are some very high-level stats that you can get and keep track of. And we'll go over what do you do with these stats later, but you can get those back. So in this case, because it is just a single method call, basically you can ask the publisher to get the stats. So here we just have some code that you may, I'm printing this out to the console every couple of seconds, but you may actually collect this internally or even push this back to a web server. But you can do the publisher.getStats, and that will take a callback method. If there's an error, we'll spit out the error, but otherwise we will print out the stats. And in this case, you can just go directly to the publisher and get the stats for it. Because you might have multiple subscribers to a single publisher on your end, I would recommend keeping track of each of the subscribers as they come in, and then you can loop over those and basically do the same thing. So in practice, when we dump this information out, for the publisher, you'll get a single array because you're only ever a single publisher, and that will have the individual stats. So you'll get both an audio and a video block, pretty much exactly the same. How many bytes have we sent? Was there any packet loss? How many bytes were sent? In the case of video here, we can see that when I took this snapshot of the video session I was recording, I was at 57.15 frame rate. So I know if I'm staying kind of right around there, we're pretty static. We're not going to move a whole lot because we will try to get as high frame rate as we possibly can. I think up to 60 frames per second. And that may fluctuate, and keep track of that. The subscriber is pretty much exactly the same. The difference is we will get them back for a single subscriber, and in here I'm just looping over the individual subscribers, so we get the same information. So you can have kind of the same uh, business logic for processing and storing all that as either side. But we make these high level videos or high level stats available for you to use. Now we do offer some low level stats as well. So these are actually from the peer connection itself that's created. So we're actually calling the underlying WebRTC methods and then populating this back up to you, so you can get things like the actual connection stats, kind of like what we have before, the inbound and outbound RTPs, the ICE candidates that were available, and then information about the media itself. So you can actually pull these back up when we send these slides out. I'll have a link to the Mozilla developer page because these are all built into the browser and they're all fairly standardized. But if you need to go that low level that you want to get stuff from the RTC stream itself, you can get those and be able to work with them. Now, in addition to the stats themselves, we will also try to proactively alert you when things are changing. So this mostly is on the subscriber and the session in and of itself. So the subscriber will publish a quality score changed event, and this is going to be when things like the actual visual quality is changing. We can let you alert you right then and there. We also have CPU performance changed, so we can actually on your device see how hard your CPU is working, because your PC has to decode all of these video streams and at the exact same time do whatever else you're doing, including publishing your streams back. So like my PC right now is running a browser with probably 40 open tabs, plus doing a full screen in a separate macOS space and doing all of this stuff. So CPU performance can be something that locally actually affects your overall quality. So we let you know when we see that happening in the browser. So the quality score changed event gives you some information. This will fire whenever we notice, especially the MOS score changed. Michael mentioned MOS really quick, but MOS stands for mean opinion score. And it's a standard way of kind of determining how good a video looks, but it is somewhat subjective. So it's actually geared toward how a person perceives how well a video would do. So you may actually be in a situation where you might get a lower quality, like resolution video, or even a slightly more pixelated video. But if it's able to handle a much higher frame rate, it will look smoother than a high quality image that's only going like 10 frames a second. So you might see a MOS score that just says like, yes, this lower quality video is scored higher, but it's much more enjoyable and consumable by a human being, much more than just like raw stats because the resolution changed or the frame rate dropped or whatever. So you may get things like a poor MOS score would be the video was very clear, but it came through stuttery. That means opinion wise, it's not a very good score. So we let you know when those change. This is on a range of 5 to 1, 5 being the most excellent and 1 being the worst. I've noticed in most of the testing I do, you'll probably sit around a 4-ish for a pretty good video, pretty much regardless of the quality, like the actual resolution. But the big thing is going to be able to watch those trends. If someone connects and they stay at a 1, you know that there's an issue there, as opposed to them connecting at a 4 and kind of staying there, their score is higher. But if you notice that 4 start to drop, there's probably an indication that something is going on. Now, because we wrap this and we provide it all for you, it's super easy to deal with. So on the subscriber, you can register an event handler, just waiting for the quality score changed event. And then we will return that event with all of the quality information. And you just can have the event handler handle it whenever it comes through. In this case, we're just going to print it out because that's the easiest way to show it. But you can actually deal with it directly in your application to like kind of watch that. And I'll go over kind of watching it later. But the event will give you the actual quality score. So here, when I took the start of a session, my audio quality was at a 4.39. My video quality was at a 3.65. So the audio was probably a little bit better than the video quality. Um, so that kind of works with that. As I went on and I let everything kind of stable out, as I finished connecting all the people that were connecting and working with it, the scores kind of balanced out. So my video quality actually went up after everybody was done connecting, because your MOS can also be impacted by like how well you're receiving it through the CPU score, things like that. But you can actually keep track of this, and you can use these numerical scores to see what is going on and be proactive with it. Now, the CPU performance changed. This is another one that will fire when we notice on your end something is happening. So we won't necessarily broadcast out that Bob's PC is having CPU issues, but it's something you can do on your end to keep track of, like, hey, alert the customer that the PC's under a lot of CPU load. They may have video quality. This is reported back as 4 different flags, either nominal or fair, which means you're working pretty good. Most things stay in nominal. If the CPU stress gets too large, this will flip over to serious or critical. And at that point, you can pop up and say, like, hey, your CPU is overloaded. That's going to affect video quality. Now, the one downside to this is it is only available in Chromium-based browsers. So newer versions of Chrome, and then anything that flows down through that. So Edge, Opera, Vivaldi, ones like that, they will all have this available. If you're using something like WebKit or Firefox, which uses I believe it's still the Gecko engine, those will not work with CPU performance. It won't break your application, but just note you're not going to get any stats back from these, because it is only available in Chrome itself. Now, this is just as easy as the other one. You just have to watch on the session this time for the CPU performance changed event. The SDK will automatically fire that when it notices a change. And then you just get an event object with the information in it. So in here, we can see kind of at the top, we've got nominal split out, so we can actually see the status. I was hoping to get one where we actually overloaded it. Turns out it's actually kind of hard to do that on an M1 Mac. But otherwise, it would just flip to like serious or the other one if there are issues. But you can keep track of this, again, over a trend of time to see whether or not there are issues. Now, speaking of that, all of these calls are individual point in time calls to get these stats. And any one number by itself is not necessarily bad. So you actually want to keep track of these and know how to process them over a time to watch for trends more than watch for a single blip. For example, if the CPU status changes to serious, but that's only at a one call and you're only checking, like, let's say maybe every 5 seconds, then that one outlier might not be an issue. When you see 5 or 6 of these calls in a row, you know you've got sustained load and you want to handle on that. But with the stats, you'll want to do something with them rather than just interpret them kind of at the point in time. So you may want to log these off to some sort of debugging or support service. So while we will keep track of these in our inspector for some of these stats, you may want to log these off on your end to be a little bit more proactive. I'll show a demo here of doing it in browser in a moment, so that way you can actually check the trends. This also allows you to create your own real-time dashboards if you want on the back end. So you may, every 10 seconds or so, ping these stats off to a logging server in your application so that you can start to build these graphs and see when there are issues. But as you're collecting these, you can proactively alert a customer through things like pop-ups, things like that, to let them know during the actual session itself, hey, we've noticed the CPU usage is up. We've noticed the subscribers' frame rates dropping, so there may be network issues, things like that. And then, of course, since you're going to be in control of all this information, you can train machine learning models to predict when sessions might fail. So if it's noticing a whole bunch of people starting to drop off, there may be an issue with specific people, or that there's an issue with the overall service. And then if you do notice that there are issues, you may want to correlate this with post-call surveys. So if someone had an issue, even if they don't complain about it during the session, you may want to pop up a thing at the end of the session and say, like, oh, how was the quality of your call? You will already have a bit of idea based on the stats that you've collected, but you may want to compare that to what the customer saw, because your thresholds may be higher than what their actual, like, in-person usage thresholds might be, or sending an email after the fact. It's nicer from a customer perspective when a company set is being a little bit more proactive, even if they're not saying, "Oh, hey, we had a problem," or "We noticed you had an issue." Being able to kind of ask that question right then and there and stock that can help put a customer at ease a little bit as well. So, how can we kind of do this at kind of a high level? So, in our case, here's a little bit of sample code that you can refer back to. We will keep track of the publisher history. So we'll keep track of the packets lost and the frame rate, and then we'll do that also for the subscribers and the quality score as well, since those are handled a little bit differently throughout the system. But we'll want to keep track of these over a length of time, and then depending on whether we want to watch for trends up or down. For example, you would want to see, if something is trending up in terms of packet loss, you have a problem there. But your frame rate, if it starts to trend down, there might be an issue there. So having some small little helper functions that just kind of like read over everything and then kind of generate a score to know whether we're trending up or down, and kind of like knock off the effect of just a single recording. Because like I said, one bad score check does not necessarily mean that you have a problem. That 5-second blip may have been the issue. So we have a couple helper functions with those. And then you can kind of go through and just kind of analyze those. So this is just going to loop through all of our stats. In my the sample application I had, we were doing this every 30 seconds to kind of watch for trends. We would actually record the stats every 3 seconds and then be able to check them every 10 seconds whether or not there was an issue. So we just go through and check the packets lost, put those into the history, and then we would check, are we trending up? And then in this case, we're just alerting to the console, but you may want to have a pop-up in the browser. But we would just pop out alert saying, packet loss is increasing or it's trending down, so we know that it's getting better, just kind of as an alert. But you can just loop through these and check whether or not they're trending in a certain direction. And then you would do the same thing for the subscribers. Now you may want to pump some of this data back, do this on the back end so that you could send a signal to the front end. But otherwise, basically, this is the same thing. We're just going to loop through each subscriber and then loop through the packets lost, the frame rate, all of that. So that way you can check. In this case, we'll know if a single subscriber is having packet loss or anything like that. So it's really easy to kind of do that. You get the stats. You're just going to try to hold on to them for a little bit and then check trends over time. And again, it's really, really nice if you can pump these back to a backend service. You can build graphs, be able to pull that up. We do have tools for that through like our session inspector, but the more you can host yourself locally and be able to react right away, the better. So now what exactly should you do when something changes? This is a little bit more subjective, but one of the main kind of things that we've talked about throughout this entire process is being proactive. Again, customers really appreciate it when they know you're watching the system and that there might be a problem before they would ever alert it. I know as a user, I would much rather send in a support ticket and get back yes, we had already noticed we're doing XYZ to resolve it. Or again, asking, hey, was there an issue with your session, before the customer really needs to feel the need to send in a support ticket, because they may be able to say oh no, during the meeting, clearly there was an issue. We were being proactive. I don't need to send in a support issue. But you want to do things like display visual indicators too, like we reduced the video resolution to improve stability. While we will handle some of those as you resize elements on the screen, you'll want to watch some of those things to know that we're kind of affecting, especially if you're doing the routed media, we're going to do things to try to compensate for issues. The other thing you might want to do is either prompt someone during a call, or if you're noticing a trend with this person where, every single session that they're in, they're tending to have a problem, maybe prompt them to do a pre-call check. We do have an online version of this that pretty much anybody can hit and use, or you can actually build some of these stats into a pre-call session yourself to get some quick indication of, how you think this is going to go before they get into the call. I also don't think there's any problem with being like, hey, we've noticed an issue in the middle of a meeting. Click here, pop up another window, and then maybe run a pre-call test to see if there are any other issues. But again, being proactive and being able to do some sort of indication during the message or during the session is going to go a long way for customer support and customer ease of mind. So now that does bring a question of like, what do you do after a session? You may be proactive as much as possible. You may be watching all of these stats and trying to make sure that it does work as well as it can. But someone may still submit a support issue, a support ticket. We do offer a post session inspector. So if you go into your dashboard and under the video and tools, there is going to be a session inspector. You can go into there. It will list all of the recent sessions attached to your account. And then you'll also be able to just like plop one in if someone sends you a session ID. And it will pull up the summary, how long it was, whether it was routed or it was peer-to-peer. And it will actually be able to tell you post-call where there were issues. So you might be able to correlate problems that you were seeing with the stats you collected with this, or if the customer does give you enough information, you can start to correlate. You can start to kind of pin things together and see, was it a bandwidth issue? Was it something else? And be able to kind of give a better indication of what was going on. Because most of the time, it's probably not going to be your platform. It's going to be something else. And being able to point the customer in the correct direction is always going to be key. So that is most of it on the how to handle quality of service and all of that. If you do have any questions, we will be able to take them now because, again, we're aware that everything is kind of unique. If after this you have questions, you can head over to our developer Slack channel. We'll put these slides out eventually here in the next couple of days. But in the meantime, if you go to developer.vonage.com, scroll all the way down to the bottom, we'll have a link to our Slack channel. We do also have some customer solution engineers and architects available that work very closely with video and can help you out. So Alex, who was on our Knowledge Quest last month, you can reach him at alexander.wu@vonage.com, or we've got michael.vernick@vonage.com for Michael, who is here with us today. So you can always reach out to them and they can kind of help guide you on your journey. So kind of go from here. You can go through and start to put that together. We're aware this is all very high level, so if you've got questions for your application, we would love to hear them. Kind of before we get to Q&A real quick, I'm going to leave this up while we do it. Here's a QR code to our developer Slack if you want to join that. And if you don't already have a Vonage account, here is a link to view that. You can go get signed up, and then you can use the coupon code at the bottom to get an additional $10 in credit to your account, as well as we do give away 2,000 free video minutes. So this credit is on top of that 2,000 free minutes that you would already get. We also have a startup program. So if you are an early stage startup who's been founded within the last 5 years, reach out to us at developer.vonage.com/startups. We do have a ton more credits that we can give you, up to $75,000, depending on your specific kind of setup and need, as well as specific support and documentation and stuff that is available to our startup program. That way we can get you also in front of our 1.7 million registered developers. But reach out through our startup program and we can see what else we can do to kind of help you out. So I'll pop back over to here and see if we have any other questions. So let me kind of come back over. Let's see. No other questions just yet. Leave it here for a moment. These videos will also eventually be on our developer YouTube channel. So if you go to youtube.com/Vonage devs, that should take you to our developer channel where we have these as well as all of our past Knowledge Quest. This video subtrack is part of a larger webinar series we have. So if you enjoyed this one, we'll have more video content throughout the year. But we generally also have kind of scheduled in advance 3 or 4 topics across our other products, because Vonage in and of itself has about 15 different API products that we make available, and all of them kind of work closely together through our dashboard. I'm not seeing any questions. So if you do have any, again, pop over to our developer Slack. We would love to hear from you, or give an email to Alex or Michael. But with that, thank you everybody for attending, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you very much.